Captain's Log Supplemental. We're still patrolling the Tyrexian Nebula. Nothing really to report on that, Ed. But I did want to relate a kind of personal encounter I had this evening. As captain, I make it my duty. I make it my habit and my responsibility to make sure that my younger officers all understand that even though there is a chain of command and we have a strict discipline on this ship, that they can come to me if they have any personal matters that just need some gentle guidance. Well, I approached a group of junior officers who were fresh to the ship during evening chow, and, well, their conversation involved words that I simply didn't understand. They were technically English, I think, but they were using quantum in a way that didn't make any sense. And when I asked about it, one of them said that I was being such a, quote, flipboard. I'll never understand these kids and their slang. All of them seem pretty sus to me, no cap.
Welcome back to another episode of Captain's Log Supplemental. As always, I am Rob, and I'm joined by my two friends and co-hosts, Stanford.
Yo!
And Chris.
Hello.
Captain's Log Supplemental is a Star Trek rewatch podcast. Each week, we cover another episode of Star Trek, marching ahead in chronological order by the star date this series started with. As a fledgling podcast, we would appreciate you taking the time to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you ingest your episodes from. Those reviews go a long way to helping us grow. So this week's episode was episode 17 of season 1 of Enterprise, Fusion. This was a rough one.
It wasn't, I was very uncomfy for pretty much most of it.
So it was definitely uncomfortable in many sections. However, I will say it's probably one of the more compelling episodes recently in the series.
I don't disagree, but I think that, and we'll talk about this as the summary goes on, but I think they missed their mark on who the good and bad guys are in this episode.
Okay, well,
I don't think a good lesson was learned by some of the characters, and it kind of undermines some very, very critical things.
You're probably right, but Rob, you want to take it away?
Yep, sure. We will definitely be diving into that juicy topic in the deep dive a little later on. So this episode kicks off with Archer showing T'Pol an astronomy book that his dad had gotten him when he was a kid. I actually really like this part. Like, I remember getting the kid's science encyclopedia from Scholastic when I was a kid, and this gave me like those same vibes.
Sorry. Okay. When I moved in with my stepfather, he had like this collection. I don't know if y'all remember this, but in the late 80s, early 90s, there was like this popular thing to do where they would just like you could buy off TV, like a collection of like encyclopedias or whatever, or something like kind of adjacent to that. He had this Time magazine edition of one that was all like mysteries of the cosmos. And so, and they were like big pictures of like nebula and black holes and like simulated things. It was very cool.
That's
I remember flipping through those when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So my only note from this part was that he said property of Admiral Johnny Archer, which the only thing I can think about when I hear Johnny Archer is Johnny Bravo, that old like Cartoon Network show, which turns out did not have a lot of consent in that series. Really reflective of the episode.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So Archer and T'Pol get interrupted by Reed, who lets them know that there's a starship approaching, and it hailed them on a Vulcan frequency. When they went to look at it, though, it looked like it was an older model starship that, like, T'Pol at least recognized, right? And they are greeted on screen by Captain Tavin of the Vauclus. So right away, we can tell something's really off about this guy. He seems almost jovial. Yeah, exactly.
My note here before I got in deeper into the episode and learned how correct I was is happy Vulcans are like the worst people.
Really, it was just the one, and he was more creepy than happy, albeit if we're being honest. But
Star Trek is not kind to like Vulcans that are in touch with their emotions.
Yeah, those
like
are Romulans.
Spock, well, so yeah, they're in their own discussion, but like actual Vulcans, because like Spock's brother was a fucking madman and all this other shit. Like, yeah, the Star Trek does not handle Vulcans not being serious.
Right. So, turns out the Vocless?
Was it not Vauntless? That's what I heard.
no, I think Vocless sounded right. There was no N in it.
Yeah,
I know that.
It's an ah sound.
It up. It's
I think it was
Vahklas.
Okay, there's the Vocless. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking they were saying Vauntless.
That's what I thought at first too.
Like
and
dauntless
I
with a
went
V.
and looked it up on the wiki because I couldn't tell what they were saying. I was like, that I know it's not right, and it was going to drive me crazy. Anyway, we find out that the Vahklas's propulsion and life support systems were in need of repair. So Archer invites the Vulcans on board for dinner and offers them help.
Of course,
retrofitting their starship.
we gotta have dinner on the show.
Absolutely. So at the captain's table, Tavin again surprises Archer when he wants to try the chicken. We find out
T'Pol looked very offended.
She did.
I don't know if offended is the right word. I think she was just caught off guard. I'm going to be defending T'Pol a lot during this episode because I think she really got the short end of everybody's stick here.
That's fair.
I meant that less sexually than it sounded, by the way.
I wasn't going to make the joke.
We find out these Vulcans are unconventional explorers of their own emotions and psyches, not just the stars.
So this is the part where I'm like, why is everybody always a monolith? Like, these Vulcans are different than the Vulcans that we know. Does everyone have to act like that's some kind of staggering revelation? Because, humanity has a lot of diversity in it, but all of these aliens have to be just like one stereotype? But
also, it's a science fiction series, and that does lend to, exploring certain topics because that's the shtick of the Vulcans, right? They're the emotion repressors.
Right.
So
and all aliens have the shtick. And it's kind of boring.
Well, I think a lot of it is just due to the episodic nature of the show. Like in a lot of ways, Star Trek writing is very similar to sitcom writing, at least in not so much in the more recent series, but
sorry, I want to be clear. I understand that from a writing perspective. I'm saying that the reaction of the humans in the show to the discovery that there are Vulcans that are slightly different than the ones they know is unreasonable.
I mean, I don't know. Every Vulcan's been a dick to him pretty much thus far, so...
He's known 6 of them.
Exactly. All of them.
He knows a man and a woman. He basically has the whole planet figured out.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, you're getting it now. I'm glad you're on board. Let's move on.
So T'Pol refers to them as Vulcans without logic, which I don't think we've heard of before in the show. Do we know that the Romulans are a thing yet? I don't think so.
No.
Probably not. But to be clear, the Romulans aren't Vulcans. They both descended from the same species, but they are distinct species. There's a name for their fucking predecessor species, too. It came out in the last Discovery, but I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, I think we brought it up on the language deep dive we did.
As I recall, there's an episode later on in Enterprise where they have a brief interaction with Romulans, but that's it.
Okay. So yes, this is apparently some kind of slur for Vulcans that have turned on their ancestral teachings. And Tavin says, they've managed to find some sort of a balance between emotion and logic, but T'Pol is doubtful.
I like how the emotional Vulcans each have one emotion, and the leader's emotion is like happy, and then kind chunky Vulcan is like his emotion is friendliness, and then the last guy's just horny. Like, that's his whole emotion.
But like, not just like regular horny, like creeper horny.
Inappropriately horny, yes.
So Trip gets to meet Cav at this point.
Kov.
His Vulcan counterpart in engineering, who is fascinated by human mating, how humans indulge in their passions. I like the examples they give.
My note here was Vulcan in engineering is horny AF.
Yeah, he thinks that humans like sleep half the day like a cat and that they eat 6 meals every day. Like, it was pretty funny.
And like, it is funny, but also, where did he get this information? Vulcans aren't usually known to be this, like, inaccurate, right?
He said he got it from a Vulcan sociologist.
Guess
Clearly
he needs some peer review on that.
Yep. So T'Pol informs Archer that Tavin has requested the recipe for his chicken marsala. Archer asks if T'Pol is avoiding the other Vulcans on purpose.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I hated every goddamn moment of this.
Would you like to expound upon that?
God damn it. Like, this is a religious difference. At the end of the day, this is a fundamental religious difference between these happy Vulcans and the standard dour Vulcans. I understand that they're a minority, and I understand that the writers think that they can, like, well, but it's unhealthy for the Vulcan mindset to do this and that. No, it's a fucking different religion. So every time Archer said shit like, seems like you've been avoiding our guests. Yes, I have. They make me deeply uncomfortable because they do not believe the same things I do. She's not being rude. She's not espousing her own beliefs upon them. She is simply avoiding them, which is the correct thing to do because she has a job to do. Okay? But then Archer's like, for all we know, they're onto something. What the fuck kind of statement is that? Can you imagine if, like, a Christian showed up on the ship and there was a Jewish science officer and the captain was like, I got some pretty interesting ideas about this Jesus guy. Maybe they're onto something. You should go explore that with them. Like, that's fundamentally fucked up.
I think this goes back to the comment we had made about aliens a couple weeks ago, where we can't interpret their moral systems through a human lens accurately.
That's fine. I'm judging Archer through my human lens.
Right. I'm saying, like, he clearly hasn't learned that lesson. Like, with everything that's happened over the course of the season so far, it's impressive that he still hasn't learned that lesson.
Oh my God. It's just so fucking awful. And he needs to back the fuck off of her. And he makes it worse as the episode goes on.
Yeah. So shortly after that, T'Pol is then joined by one of the Vulcans, who we later learn is Talaris, in the mess hall. And he's super creepy through this entire scene. Like, super, super creepy.
I'm fairly sure there's not a moment where he is on camera where he is not creepy at any point.
Yeah, like, if that's the direction he received for his character, he nailed it.
Like, even in, like, the dinner when he is, like, briefly introduced, you're like, that guy's creepy.
Yeah. Like, he cannot stop leering at her through this whole scene, and it just made me super uncomfortable. Talaris points out that T'Pol has developed a sense of humor and thinks that it might have been...
God damn it. Oh, you're Jewish, yet you believe that people should be nice to each other just like Jesus did? How interesting. It's such fucking bullshit. And my issue with the episode is that the writers don't handle it the way it obviously should be. Because by the end of the episode, spoiler alert, there's like this, well, maybe she's experimenting with new kinds of emotion. No, she had her fundamental rights violated on multiple occasions on a ship that she works on. By literally everyone. Like, God damn it. Anyways, I have opinions.
Yeah.
That never happens.
The two of them... the two of them wind up getting into a philosophical debate on Vulcan primal natures and how many have tried to do what Tavin and the crew of the Voklas are attempting in the past and failed. Talaris says that that's all just propaganda, and then asks T'Pol to join him for pizza at Archer's suggestion. which she turns him down, but does consider trying it with him later.
I think the most important part about this scene is that we found out that T'Pol does not like pizza.
I don't think she earnestly was going to try it with him later. I think she just said perhaps later as a way to end the conversation.
That is probably accurate.
And I know people who don't like pizza. It's all right.
No, it's not. Pizza's a food group.
Yeah. Okay. My kid doesn't like vegetables, and that's a food group.
That's the problem. He needs vitamins and minerals.
I didn't say I don't make him eat them. I said he says he doesn't like them.
It's fair.
We return back to the bridge, where Archer is surprised to find out that the Arachnid Nebula is quite a bit larger than his astronomy book taught him.
So he says pictures don't do it justice, right? And he's looking at it through a screen, so obviously pictures are doing it just fine. But also, like, aren't Nebula, and this could be a fundamental misunderstanding on my part, but like, aren't Nebula mostly like invisible? Like, don't we have to like radio and colorize those images to see Nebula?
Definitely some parts of them. They're more guilty of hiding what's inside of them, and that's the reason why we try to look at different wavelengths.
Okay.
They do. I mean, they're just gas and dust. You know, they do block out quite a bit, and a good portion of Nebula are not visible in, you know, the visible spectrum of light.
Right. But anyways, like, it's not like that's a big window in front of him. It's just a big screen. So, like, obviously the pictures are doing it enough justice for you.
Yeah. So he decides that they want to take the time to map out the nebula. At that point, Tavin offers that his ship has advanced sensors on board that can help speed that up, and offers to help out. Archer accepts, and then asks T'Pol to join the crew of the Vauclus, like, on their own bridge.
All right, we get it. We get it.
Alone.
We get it. He seems very pleased with himself afterwards, though.
He is such a dick the whole time.
Yeah, he is.
Like, this is harassment. Like, this is just straight up, like, you gotta report his ass to HR harassment at this point.
Talaris gets to talk with T'Pol aboard their bridge.
We're on the Vulcan bridge with Commander Dickhole.
Yeah. He explains that he and the rest of the Vulcans on the Vauclus still follow Sarek's teachings, but they believe that they've been misinterpreted. So rather than cutting out their emotions entirely, they're of the opinion that they're supposed to master their emotions and then carefully reintegrate them into their lives. He suggests that T'Pol not meditate that evening and see how it affects her dreams, you know, as a science experiment, because she's the science officer, I guess.
So, also, you said he suggested it. He did it in, like, the creepiest way, though. He, like, told her to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like a suggestion. It was like, do this.
But also, like, do Vulcans not occasionally skip meditation because they're busy or whatever? Because it seems like a single night shouldn't have caused this big of a reaction.
I mean, apparently not.
Jesus Christ.
We then dive back into Trip hanging out with Cobb, where he has to explain football to the Vulcan engineer.
American football.
Yes, I'm sorry, American football.
Yeah.
Not the real football.
On the USS America here. Yeah, we knew which sport it was.
Someone explained to him that football was apparently about one team trying to kill the opposing quarterback, which...
I mean, he's not wrong.
Not entirely wrong. It's just usually a slow death from a series of concussions.
Yeah, just recurring brain injuries is all. Trip starts asking the engineer then about Vulcan mating rituals.
I like how Trip's like, you're trying to be all coy, and the guy's like, you mean sex? And the entire cafeteria stops talking and stares at them.
Yeah.
Which is a very, like, it's okay, you can talk about sex, it's fine.
I just love Reed, who then sits down and joins in on the conversation.
Like, wait, hold on. My favorite thing is talking about sexual conquests. Let's discuss this.
And Cobb is like, we do the Ponfar, it's every 7 years. He's like, we're trying to figure out how to make Vulcan boner pills, but that's just not working yet.
So that was such a weird interaction.
And
again,
also,
in the mess
like,
hall.
I guess Vulcan women don't have the whole Ponfar thing.
I guess not.
I don't think it's one of those things where it's like I don't think I've ever heard any mention of I have to Ponfar, but fortunately my wife is already ready for me. Like I've never had any.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I don't know.
I swear we get something from T'Pol at some point in the series around Ponfar, but maybe I'm making that up.
I don't know. This is my first rodeo. So Admiral Forrest then rings Archer to ask for a favor on behalf of the Vulcan ambassadors to Earth. The ambassadors want Archer to ask one of their crew members, Kav, to call home to his father, who is ill and potentially dying. Turns out they haven't spoken in years, and his dad, I guess, wants to reconcile things finally. We then switch back over to T'Pol, who's having the weirdest dream.
It's T'Pol dreams in noir, apparently.
Yeah.
Right before this, though, the Forrester conversation, that was all very reasonable and touching and kind of that's a sensible request. Right up until Forrester just inexplicably and unexpectedly threatens him.
Yeah.
And it was a little random, man. He already said yes.
Yeah, I get his reluctance with the interactions he's had with the Vulcan ambassadors in the past. I don't think that he needed the push that Forrest was trying to strong arm him with, though.
Right.
So yeah, T'Pol has classic Hollywood dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Then the saxophone proceeds to fuck all of our ear holes up.
Hey, that was some. I want to say that's actually a real piece of music because I think I've heard it before.
Interesting.
But it's jazz, which is and that the jazz was a good touch because Vulcans are methodical and very formulaic, and jazz very specifically is a bucking against those structures. But aside from the jazz, why did it have to be sex dreams? I understand.
You know why.
I mean, I do know why. It's 2002 and she's a woman. But it would have been, the dream sequence would have been better if it was her laughing at jokes or crying about something sad. Throw us some emotions. If you want to throw a passionate love scene in there, that's fine. But we didn't need, was it 5 separate, distinct, different place fuck scenes in this dream? There were a bunch.
Yeah, it was more than was necessary to get the point across for sure. They could have just had her dreamily staring at the band as they performed, Well,
sure. Or like I said, laughing at a joke. Maybe she's on a roller coaster and she smiles or gets scared or something. There's plenty of things you could do here.
But sexy lady is hot.
I
know. So she jolts awake in a fit and then goes to visit Dr. Phlox, who confirms her agitated state.
Also can't leave her alone.
By the way, at the end of the dream sequence, we have that statue of Sarok or whatever fall, which seemed a very ham-fisted way of oh, look, she's abandoning her teachings.
Yeah. Yep. T'Pol admits to skipping her meditation at the recommendation of Talaris, and at that point, that's when Phlox points out that she could consider trying to experiment with their philosophies. But the one thing I will say is he does recommend that if she does it, she try it slowly instead of.
But he doesn't say
what happens.
If. He says you could and should. He recommends it because it's a way to open her to open her mind up.
Yeah.
He's not saying, hey, if you think about it, let me know and we can do it safely. He's saying, no, you should try this new stuff. I'll be there to make sure you don't die. It's no one can leave her the fuck alone.
Archer meets with Kav to pass along Kav. I keep saying Kav. Archer meets with Kav to pass along the message to his father, or from his father rather, and then asks if he'd be willing to phone home. Turns out the last time they spoke, Kav's father was less than kind to him. Yeah. And he had said that Kav had brought shame onto 15 generations of their family, which is a weird number.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. Vulcans live a long time.
This sequence rings, yes, they live 200 years. This sequence rings very differently in 2023 than it did in 2002.
How so?
This feels very like, yeah, I don't talk to my dad anymore because he doesn't accept the fact that I'm gay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I interpreted it.
And I don't know if that was intentional, but that's what it feels like. And it makes... I was already mad because, like, Archer, leave him alone. You passed on the message. He said, no, it's none of your business. That's the end of the conversation. You don't even know this guy. But then, like, to layer on this idea that, like, oh, his father doesn't talk to him because he's different and has brought shame to his family because of it. That's not like a, oh man, we had a big fight over some pizza and I just haven't talked to him since. Like that's a real shitty situation to put Kav in.
Yeah. The next scene, also super uncomfortable. Talaris is pushing T'Pol about her dreams and asking her to explain like what happened.
He is talking so close to her face.
It's so physical. Yeah. It's so uncomfortable.
Turns out that a part of T'Pol's dream was influenced by a memory she actually had on Earth. She had left the Vulcan compound to investigate human entertainment, as she describes it. She wandered into the nearby town, went to a restaurant, was drawn in by the music, and she felt invigorated by the music.
So, like, this whole scene, the only thing I can think of the way of describing how Talaris is acting, he's like edging himself emotionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's getting off on her describing this emotion.
Oh, God, now it feels even creepier now that you explain it like that. I don't like this. The worst part is, at the very end, he offers to help her explore these feelings, which, again... super creepy. Archer asks Trip to talk to Kav on his father's behalf. He's a little more concerned with how much time T'Pol is spending with Talaris at this point, and recognizes that something might be a little off, but doesn't pursue
fucking
it.
idea.
I know.
Yeah.
Trip also kind of brushes it off, just saying, maybe she enjoys being around her own kind again. Who knows? Turns out Talaris has the bright idea to teach T'Pol how to perform a mind meld, which I didn't realize this wasn't a part of Vulcan culture. I thought that this was like a recognized ritual by them.
It is in like the future.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So this is, I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, where the mind meld isn't like it's kind of taboo thing at this point in Vulcan history.
Because like I remember the episode of Strange New Worlds where Spock and his fiancée go through the process.
Hijinks.
Mm-hmm. Hijinks.
But by the way, mind meld, the other Star Trek concept that often is used as kind of a Deus Ex Machina way to get out of things, much like the transporter is. Yeah.
Well, that and the neck pinch because we don't have the budget for an extended fight scene.
Listen, throwing 2 limbs at a time is very costly.
That's double the pay.
T'Pol accepts the offer, but this clearly makes her uncomfortable, right? Initial,
I must warn you, I'm going to need to touch your face pretty weird.
Yeah. After an initial hiccup, they do succeed in the ritual, and at that point, they begin reviewing that memory T'Pol had about walking through the streets near the compound.
So she's walking through San Francisco, and I'm like kind of looking at it, and I'm like, I'm fucking furious, right? But then I noticed, like, man, future San Francisco is like extra inaccessible. It looks like they installed more curbs just to fuck with wheelchairs. There's like extra curbs.
You know what? They also built more hills because they didn't have enough of those.
Yeah. So she had to go like up 3 curbs and then down some steps in order to get to this club.
Yeah, and then it got very rapey.
Yeah.
Oh, my note here is, and now it's rape.
Yeah.
She withdrew consent.
At this point, Talaris tries to help her confront the emotions. Well, really force her to confront the emotions, but she clearly isn't ready to do that. Talaris tries to force the subject, and T'Pol denies him, says, no, this is not okay, and then breaks free of the mind meld, which I didn't know was possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that happen before. Clearly it is, but
I mean, usually it's not a rapey situation.
The thing about
Yeah.
mind melds is it's usually like Vulcan to human or whatever in these shows. So like,
yeah.
the humans aren't usually as good at handling that shit. But there have been a couple times where the Vulcans have tried to like mind meld, but like whatever they were trying to do it to like was refusing them or whatever.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. T'Pol clearly feels violated by all this and leaves, and
Justifiably.
Talaris just super creepy and goes, "What a shame," as she walks out the door. Or I'm sorry, as he walks out the door, and then T'Pol calls for Dr. Phlox.
Yeah. That was just a straight up rape scene.
Yep, 100%. That was not cool.
It was
gross.
not cool in universe. The fact that the writers then used this scene for her to learn some little lesson was extra not cool.
What's the lesson?
Yeah, I did not get that takeaway.
Try to remember. Yeah, at the very end when she's like, because my last note here is the writers did a shit job with T'Pol here. That's not how trauma works. I don't remember the specifics of the conversation because I was pretty much seeing red at that point. But her last scene or dialogue with someone, it may have been Phlox, may have been Archer, it may have been just kind of by herself, was her kind of being like, well, I mean, sure, I got raped, but like he had some good points, and maybe I should experiment with some of this. And it was very, very, very not good.
Oh, that is not how I interpreted that last scene, but we'll get there in a second. So Trip, we return back to Trip talking to Kov for Archer. Kov still has no intention of calling home to see his father. And I guess to try and help the situation, Trip then recounts the experience of his first school dance.
The worst analogy I've
I was like,
ever heard.
where is this going?
I was like, is she going to die in a car accident after this? What? How does this relate?
There are so many more traumatic experiences we've seen Trip go through on this show that could have led to regret. But anyway,
but we did get to see him do a little boogie.
That is true. The whole point was he couldn't muster up the courage to ask his crush to a dance at the school dance, right?
In 5th grade or whatever, like he said primary school.
Yeah. And it's apparently haunted him through his entire life. So his suggestion was that Kov talk to his dad just not to regret it in the future. I felt like Trip at least handled this much better than Archer did.
But still didn't take no for an answer.
Right, but I do appreciate that he seemed to have Kov's best interest in mind to some extent, because he didn't want his new friend to have to go through that sense of regret for the first time in his life. Like, regret sucks. And I'm not saying it was entirely out of a place of empathy. Like, he clearly had orders from Archer to do this. So, like, you can't really separate the two. But it seems at least somewhat more, I don't know.
Altruistic?
Yeah. So Archer winds up calling Talaris to his quarters. He lets Talaris know that T'Pol is in sickbay because of the mind meld. And Archer actually accuses Talaris of assault, and that this might have caused like permanent neurological damage after the meld.
He says, like, you've been manipulating her. And I was like, Archer, you've been manipulating her. Like,
yeah. I mean, he did get a little karma by getting yeet across his office by Talaris.
Yeah. They did a good job. I will say, like for all the shit writing, they did a good job. If you notice Talaris' face as he's getting angrier and angrier, he's flushing, but he's flushing green.
I didn't
because they have green blood, yeah.
Because they have green blood. Yes, it was actually surprisingly well done.
Interesting.
Like, he's getting greener and greener in the face as the scene goes on.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I am glad that they at least have Archer call a spade at this point and say, like, this is assault. This was wrong. You are wrong.
Yeah. I was a little confused as to why he didn't just get to that point in the first place, though.
Yeah, like he was toying with him.
Yeah, I didn't understand the luring him in with an offer of coffee and whatnot. It was weird.
It was. It felt very manipulative at the end.
Like, just like show up with your security team. Like, that's the
Get the fuck
appropriate
off
way
my
to.
ship. Yeah.
Get off the boat. Trip then finds out that Kov has talked with his father, and
See?
Kov thanks
Worked
Trip
out.
for the advice.
Yep. No lessons need to be learned. It all
Nope.
worked out.
Exactly. And then the episode closes out when Archer's checking on T'Pol at the
Fucking
end
hell.
here.
I was like, Archer,
And-
you better be here to apologize like a lot. And guess what he didn't do?
I mean, he did apologize to her in the most Archer way possible by saying that he finally understands why the Vulcans are so careful with their emotions, which is something he has been ragging on her about for the last 16 episodes.
That's not an apology.
It is not. He does not come out
Like,
and
he
just
does
say,
not
"I am
apologize for
sorry."
the thing that he did wrong. He could say, like, oh, now I understand more why Vulcans did this, which A, is not the point. But B, that's not an apology for the actions and decisions that he made.
No.
It's an excuse, and it sucks.
Yeah. So the statement I think you were referring to, Stanford, T'Pol then asks Archer if his dreams are pleasant, and then admits to envying him when he says that they are.
Mm.
So what I took from that wasn't that T'Pol was then going to go on and explore these new like philosophies. I took that as, I'm jealous that they are for you. I'm going to leave mine as they are and continue like meditating my nightly ritual. That was how I interpreted it anyway. I don't know what happens later in the show, so I can't speak to that.
But I did not interpret it that way. Again, I think that the writers are suggesting that she's like, oh, maybe she
Yeah.
like is going to experiment just a little bit. Like maybe she's realizing that maybe just being pure logical Vulcan-y is not the only way. Maybe she could learn a good thing out of this or whatever.
That's not what I got, to be honest with you.
The whole episode felt like that, and this was a nice little cap. But like, that's me and my interpretation.
There is definitely like parts of the episode that are very much that.
For sure.
I didn't take this one. I just took it as she's scarred from the thing that just happened, and she wishes she didn't have to deal with it. That's all I really got from it.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Well, this ain't
Anyway.
a democracy.
So another episode in the can. We're going to take a little break here and then come back for the deep dive. All right, welcome back, everybody. So for this week's deep dive, I wanted to take a chance to talk about the concept of consent in Star Trek. When they get it wrong, when they get it right.
Something nice and light. Okay, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We often rag on Star Trek, pretty blatantly ignoring the concept of consent. We brought it up on previous episodes here, and specifically even during this season where the writers seemingly kind of brush it off in an attempt to sell the show to young men of the early aughts. I thought that, so for one, I just wanted to bring up the fact that Archer calling assault is, I feel like, important progress for the writers in the show so far, because they have not done that in the past.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's true, but also, like, I mean, there's going to come a point, I'm sure, if it hasn't already happened, if I could, think back, that, like, we're going to call assault when it happens to a main character, but not when it happens by a main character,
Yeah. I mean, you can... I know you guys don't have a ton of experience with the original series, but you all know how Captain Kirk, had a reputation.
And it wasn't good. At least it was the 60s, but it was still bad, right?
Right.
This show is doing it in 2001 and 2.
Right.
And it was assault when he kissed that one medieval woman who couldn't understand his language. Like, that's assault. But
Yep, she did.
We're not going to call that
first.
assault. That was a budding love and relationship.
Right. And like, I feel like that's something that happens in Hollywood a lot, where the guy is just expected to go for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's celebrated instead of questioned. Like, why would you do that to a person without asking them first, you know?
So does that mean that Little Mermaid scene is problematic?
Which Little Mermaid scene?
The kiss the girl one.
Sha-la-la-la-la.
Did she consent?
So I don't
like at that point. I think it's implied that they were courting. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that now that you mention it.
Yeah, I mean, like, she definitely wanted to be kissed, I guess. I don't know. That's an interesting case because she can't talk, right? Like, she's having trouble communicating.
Yeah.
It's
so,
also,
like, from Eric's perspective, is that consent valid, you know?
Yeah, it's also a different situation than the one you referred to in that previous episode where they're, like, on a stakeout and he just, like, shoves his face into hers.
Right, because there wasn't a Jamaican crab singing about it at the time.
That is clearly the most important differentiator.
Yeah, the most important variable for sure. So, like, Star Trek has a long history with playing fast and loose with consent. Like, a lot of my experience with Star Trek was with Next Generation, and, like, one of the early episodes of the first season was it was with Yar and Data, and I can't remember, was it a virus that happened to the ship?
Yes, it makes them all drunk.
Yeah. So inhibitions are loosened up, and like I know that the writers were trying to play it off as a sly joke, but it's really creepy that Data, who can't get drunk, he kind of lets things happen with Yar.
Actually, he does end up getting drunk at the end of that, though.
Does he?
There's also, like, at least 2 episodes where Troy, like, gets basically raped. Like,
yeah.
Like,
isn't there one where Crusher does too?
Probably.
Are you talking about the ghost?
The ghost?
Oh,
Yeah. But
God.
also, wait a minute. So this is an earnest question then, because late 80s, early 90s, etc. Is there a lady character on that show, on Next Generation, that did not get sexually assaulted at some point?
I mean, Yard did the sexually assaulting to Data.
No. What Rob's saying is, and rightfully so, that she was clearly intoxicated and he took advantage of her.
I don't think that's how the scene plays out.
I watched that scene earlier today, actually, because it's like episode 3 or 4, and I had them on, so that is exactly how that scene plays out.
Like, the issue is, like, it's assault if you can't, like, if you're not able to give somebody a no because you are,
I see what you're saying,
you know, intoxicated or otherwise unable to do so.
Right. I'm not saying that Data like switched on Johnny Bravo mode and went for
Right.
it. But like, she said, "Hey, let's have sex." He could tell that she was not in her right mind, but he said, "Okay."
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And like in Next Generation, there's a lot of questionable things with Jonathan Riker, you know? Wasn't there like one episode where
Jonathan Riker?
Jonathan, is that his name?
No, it's William Riker,
Is
and
it?
Jonathan Frakes is
right.
the actor.
You're
That's
right.
okay. As soon as he said it, I'm like, it sounds wrong, but not wrong enough for me to say anything.
You did
Jonathan
a little.
Frakes.
Yeah.
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 His whole character was iffy.
I don't remember well enough.
Honestly, I don't think he was that bad. Like, he was definitely like, with the ladies.
He was definitely a schmoozer, but I don't like.
I don't remember him ever being like assaulty.
Yeah,
Like
I
Kirk
don't.
was.
I don't
Okay,
remember, but I'm going
that's
to be
fair.
honest. It has been a long time since I've seen all of TNG, so I can't say that never happened.
Yeah, like the one episode of TNG that I remember specifically finding creepy, even like back in high school and like middle school when I was watching it. Do you remember the episode where Geordi meets the engineer that helped design the Galaxy class
incel
starships?
Geordi is definitely a thing that happens in.
Incel Jordy.
Do you remember this episode, Stanford?
That's a plot line.
100%.
That's a plot line of
actually-
more than one episode.
If it weren't for the creepy rape stuff, it was actually a pretty clever little episode where they talk about how like we can use the holodeck for those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
The simulation stuff.
Yeah, not okay to turn them into your digital girlfriend, though.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, Rob. Do you have a structure here? Because I don't want to derail us, but actually that does segue us into like.
No, this was supposed to be open. I have examples to go through, but
sure.
Really just open-ended conversation here.
So one of the like consistently and periodically troubling consent issues I have with Star Trek, and this came up a lot in Voyager, is the generally male character making inappropriately sex-oriented holodeck programs that women characters are then subjected to.
Barclay.
And like not even so much in like a Barclay kind of way, like with or like with Geordi, but there is one of those in Voyager as well, where 7 of 9 is like courting some various people and stuff. But like Tom Paris has a holodeck program that's like this bar in France, and he's made all of the women characters like complete tarts, and like the male characters are like these overbearing pigs. And like other crewmates visit that program. And it's like that's a type of sexual harassment. You know?
Yeah.
That's akin to like
definitely get HR called.
Right. That's akin to like having like a porny background on your computer on like at work.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah,
like
another.
They end up on like with a resort program later in the series, and like that one's just got these like scantily clad women who, are like always willing to. They never say fuck, but like that's what they're there for, right?
Like somebody definitely needs to be cleaning out the filters on that holodeck.
To be fair enough, there was a point in that one where this like very chiseled guy in a Speedo came walking up, and Tom's like, I remember this guy, and Torres is like, I made some additions, fuck you, and she like lets him go and like rub oil on her.
Yeah, I had a couple examples from Voyager here. So like I don't have a ton of experience with the series. I've caught episodes here or there. Janeway getting kidnapped by Q to bear his child.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, hold on. He didn't. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to. Because he does kidnap her. That's true. And he didn't really. Like, she said no. And then he's like, let me show you what's going on. In order to convince her, he did not hold her. He didn't hold her hostage and threaten her until she, like, had children with him. But he did, like, try to coerce her with his evidence, right?
Yeah, he kidnapped her, dude.
Right. I just want to be clear that, like, he did not kidnap her to have sex with her. He kidnapped her to convince her that sex was the right decision because of how bad the continuum was getting. It's not a lot better, but I do think there is a difference there.
Dude, this is like Greek mythology Zeus level shit.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong. It's Q, right?
The other one's, is it Chakotay? Chakotay?
Chakotay?
Chakotay.
Yeah, okay. Chiclet. Yeah, Chiclet.
Oh, God.
I'd say you were making fun. Like, we should probably not make fun because it's like an indigenous name, but I don't think it's a real indigenous name per the information I found out about their quote unquote cultural sensitivity. Like, consulting.
That's
right. The fake one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make fun of his name.
No,
I've legitimately only ever read it before.
Yeah, it is Chakotay.
So Chakotay having his DNA used to make a child in one of the episodes, which apparently they later tried to retcon.
They didn't.
Like, it turned out that it wasn't really his kid in the next episode. That's what the...
Yeah, that was Siska.
Wiki said.
Okay. I remember that discussion. I don't remember the end result of it.
But yeah, that is a weird situation to be in.
That is a weird situation.
The salamander incident.
I'm sorry, the what incident?
Yeah, the
salamander incident.
Threshold.
Oh,
come on, threshold.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where that falls on this spectrum.
I think that falls in the spectrum of terrible fucking episode. Like,
Yeah, I don't even know, like, if we're both evolved into, like, brainless lizards and then we fucking have children. Is that a consent issue? I don't even know at that point.
I would think no, you're just animals at that point, but also, like, what the fuck episode? I mean, come on.
But also, you didn't have to write it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there is a
Somebody
level
clearly
of
thought that was a good idea.
I am continually surprised as the show goes on, because, like, this is not, doesn't seem like it's going away. I am continually surprised that there are not protocols that disallow people from making holographic simulations of their crew, of, like, anyone who's in real life, but especially their crewmate.
I was kind of amazed that they had even thought about this back then, because we're seeing this play out in real time now, where, like,
AI generated
female, right, exactly, like celebrities are having AI generated pornography made of them, which is essentially the exact same thing, and it's super fucked up.
Right, but the shows don't ever talk about it. They never talk about it. The Geordie LaForge episode is as close as you get.
I know. And, like, Geordie winds up trying to gaslight her at the end there.
At the end of that episode?
Like,
or do you mean the sequel episode where she actually shows up?
I think the sequel episode where she shows up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, because she stumbles upon the recording and she's watching, like, basically where he programmed her to, like, be affectionate toward him. And he comes in and says, like, oh, wait, you're taking this way out of context here. It's like,
I swear we didn't have sex.
Here. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's weird because they were ahead of their time there, but they didn't quite.
There's never, if that is directly acknowledged then, which is fine, I agree, it is never acknowledged again in all of Star Trek. I don't think I've ever heard anyone later say it is inappropriate to make a simulation of a crewmate.
Is there something in the lower decks about? I feel like there's something in the lower decks about this. Maybe I'm making this up, but I feel like I remember something at the edge of my brain.
Maybe. But, like, and I don't even mean just in a sexy way. Like, it's inappropriate, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you shouldn't be using the personalities of people you know or, like, prominent figures in that way. It's very creepy. I don't know any other way to describe it.
Well, yeah, and it comes from, and especially the prominent figure thing, because it's that same thing where, like, you know, a celebrity's nudes get leaked and no one goes to jail for, like, revenge porn, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So the one sort of larger scale example I wanted to bring up here was the Borg. Because, like, their whole thing is basically you lose free will. And I never really appreciated it until I started having shower thoughts about this the other day when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for the deep dive here. I kind of forgot that, like, 7 of 9 and Picard, they, like, remember being Borg. It's really messed up.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be haunting.
Yeah, there's a very poignant episode in Next Generation for Picard where he goes back home and tries to, like, recover from his experience with the Borg. And he has a very, like, heart-to-heart conversation with his brother about, you know, all the things that they made him do, and
the one where he cries.
Yes, he wish he was, you know, he wasn't strong enough, and it's very definitely reflective of rape in that way, for sure.
Yes, it's certainly trauma.
Yeah.
I will say, though, it's kind of interesting that, like, I don't agree that 7 of 9 is the same. She was assimilated as a child, and her character did not reflect on her time with the Borg as negatively as Jean-Luc did. She treats it more as, like, a fact of her life. Like, this is a fact, like, this is something that is, like, a defining characteristic of me. And she kind of embraces it in a way that Jean-Luc definitely doesn't. But, like, is not quite as sad as you make it sound, Rob. You know, there was some adjustment when she first got back to being human and stuff, but the implication, because we can't have anyone having actual therapy, but the implication is that she really did work through those feelings and tried to find the things about her Borginess that like define her in unique and special ways, as you know, and dwelling upon those as a way to identify her humanity.
Interesting.
And that comes through, like, that's a long-term thing for her to kind of like explore throughout several seasons of the show.
It's pretty nice that they were willing to even explore it.
Right. I mean, they also made her wear a skin-tight suit because, quote, it helped her regenerate. So, like, you know, take what you can where you get it.
Yeah.
Need that fan service, baby.
Clearly, Star Trek misses the mark sometimes.
Certainly.
Do either of you have any other examples you'd like to bring up?
I have one, actually, that is a kind of an ongoing example that is kind of interesting, and that's the Doctor from Voyager, because he's a hologram, right? But, like, he gradually gains enough of a semblance of sentience that you could call him, like, you know, a person, right? And there's, like, a whole thing where he goes to court to actually become a person, and it's this whole thing about hologram rights and whatnot, which is fine. There are a couple other episodes where they talk about like holographic program rights and things because they are ways, they are people. But like, there's also a level of like, we're granting the Doctor rights when it is convenient to us, but as soon as we need something from him that he doesn't want to do, we immediately like alter his program or restrict where he can go or any number of other things because, well, at the end of the day, he's just a computer program. And the show tries to make that like point, but they don't do a very good job, but in their defense, they do try. But like, it feels very gross when it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From my memory of watching Voyager, like I do recall them like pointing out that that's wrong, but also like in other instances, just doing it and not talking about it because they need it for the plot point.
Right.
All right.
You
Any
got
other
anything,
examples
Chris?
from you, Chris?
No.
Okay.
Well, then I'm going to take Chris's.
Okay. Go for it.
One of the most famous things that is talked about with Star Trek is the fact that it was the first interracial kiss on television. This is in an episode called Plato's Stepchildren. Mm-hmm. And are you aware of the context of that kiss?
I'm not. I've never seen the episode.
Outside the script, you mean?
No. In the scene, in the fiction of the show, do you know the context of the kiss between Uhura and Kirk?
I don't remember.
So Plato's stepchildren are psychic beings that are able to take control of people telepathically. So they force them to kiss.
Ah,
that's right.
Gross.
And so, like, it is interesting that, like, hey, it was TV's first interracial kiss. Yeah, but
ew.
Also, like, there wasn't any consent. And earlier in that sequence, the Plato stepchildren made Kirk whip Uhura with a whip, which is not subtle imagery.
Yeah.
No. So it is very funny that with rose-tinted glasses, we give Star Trek this accolade, even though that sequence in and of itself is some of the most problematic television you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, I mean, there were problematic off-the-screen shenanigans with a whole bunch of the crewmates and Gene Roddenberry, too, which I'm sure we'll dive into at some point in the future.
I actually don't know about those.
Yeah, like the actor or actress that played Nurse Chapel, for instance, that was Gene Roddenberry's wife at one point.
Yeah,
but I think like there were sexual assault allegations on him from other crew members at the time. Like
can men just stop being in charge of stuff? I'm like, we're done. Can we stop? we ruined it. Like, we're done. Fucking
we ruined it. So yeah, speaking of ruining it, I'm sorry if we didn't have enough time or the ability to do this justice. We are three white guys talking about Star Trek on the internet, but I felt like it was a poignant thing to bring up with this episode because it was a major theme here and definitely worth acknowledging. So thank you all. We will be back in a few minutes for hopefully a more lighthearted potpourri section.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So for this potpourri section, I wanted to touch on some current Star Trek news going on right now. Just a few days ago, it was announced that Star Trek Prodigy, the Nickelodeon Star Trek animated series, will be canceled and will be yanked from Paramount Plus. That was on June 23rd. And season 2 will also not air on Paramount Plus. Now, there's been some conflicting reports, but some of the show people have stated that season 2 production will be finished, so it may still air on Nickelodeon. I'm not sure. There's kind of been, like I said, conflicting reports in that area. Some of the showrunners and people from the show have also mentioned that they are hoping that somebody else will pick up the show. Which would be interesting since pretty much like that's what Paramount Plus's big thing was all the Star Trek was there once they combined, with CBS.
Yeah, Paramount has owned Star Trek pretty much since the beginning.
Well, so yes and no.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know Lucille Ball, etc. But like, my point is that like Paramount has been, I think all of the movies were Paramount.
Yeah, I think that's right. Although I believe the original series originally aired on NBC.
That's correct.
Well, back then there were like 6 channels.
So it's from what it's kind of out there. It seems to be a casualty of the recent trends in streaming wars, so to speak.
It looks like it's already off Paramount Plus.
Is it already? Okay.
Yep. Fucking hell.
But yeah, just like many shows are being canceled for cost savings. Both to just save money on production, but also to receive tax breaks. It is odd in that season 2 was already in production when it was canceled. That's kind of an odd one. Go ahead.
Like, that's fine. Like, I'm not a fucking business person. Wait, I am a business person. I'm not a TV producer, so I can't say like, well, does it make any sense to cancel a show halfway through its second season or whatever? I don't know. I don't know. It is some kind of slimy to pull the shit that was already on the streaming service off the streaming service, though.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Like, what's up with that shit?
Yeah,
it's like HBO and Sesame Street all over again.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the main weird part about it is if it does end up going to a different, either streaming service or channel or whatever, you're going to have all the Star Trek stuff except for Prodigy, which who knows at that point if they're even, is this canon at that point? I that makes me wonder if they'll be even able to sell it and have it picked up by another channel or streaming service.
Right. Yeah, because Paramount owns the rights to Star Trek.
Right.
So I was just looking it up because I was like, what TV channel did Next Generation air on? And it aired on, I don't know where it aired on, but like it was Paramount that was shopping the series around 2 channels. So I don't know, I don't know about the original series, but they may have also been owned by. So they went from Desilu in 66 to 68 to Paramount. So Paramount has owned Star Trek since 1968.
Yeah. It obviously begs the question, is this going to happen to other Star Trek series? Now, Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks have certainly been well received. Discovery are they making another season of Discovery at this point? I don't know.
It's supposed to be the last season.
Okay. So that's going to end anyway, but It
would be about right for that show
Yeah.
if it ended and never got that final season.
Oh, man. Obviously, Picard's last season just finished up a few months ago. So that's over. So really all that's going right now at this point is Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks.
Are they still planning on making new movies?
I've heard the 4th movie is in the works, but I'm not a Hollywood reporter. I don't know.
4th movie?
For Kelvin?
Okay. Yeah, so that is all that's out there right now. Obviously, something to keep an eye on, but kind of a shame that they canceled that so quickly.
You know, and it's one of those things where, like, we watched the first 10 episodes with my kid, and it was cute. I enjoyed it. It's definitely like for kids.
Yes.
But it's nice that it's not like for babies, you know, like it's for tweens and teens.
Yeah.
And like the CGI and stuff was fine. That kind of animation has gotten good enough now that like shows can just have it. I was looking forward to watching the second half of the first season, which, to be clear, was finished and syndicated and was on the streaming service.
Yep.
So when you said, oh, hey, we're going to talk about Prodigy getting canceled, I'm like, shit, Prodigy got canceled? Apparently this happened like 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was very recent.
And it's already gone. You cannot get it from the streaming service anymore.
Yes, it was a surprise announcement. Like, nobody was aware of this.
What is the fucking point? Like, if any of our 7 listeners or however many we have know the answer to this, what is the point? What is the point of pulling it from streaming? Is it just, my assumption, because I'm me, is that it's capitalist bullshit. Like, they don't want to pay the royalties to people who are streaming it or whatever.
That's exactly it.
It's got to be it, right? But fucking hell. And you don't even give people time. You didn't even give people time to go watch it. Like, hey, you know, if there was, God damn it, if there was like this thing where they're like, look, I'm so sorry, we can't keep this show, we can't maintain this show because this, that, and the other thing. So we're going to pull it on this date in a month or whatever. So if you want to watch it, go watch it. Like, that would be one thing. It would still be bullshit, but at least like easier bullshit. But this is just nonsense. Like, except for the fact that I'm sure I can pirate it. Not that we condone pirating officially. I could pirate it in Minecraft, right? That's what you got to say. So it's a legally okay thing to say. But like, people who don't have access to those kinds of media literally could never watch this because it's just gone forever.
Is it on DVD? DVD.
They released the first 10 episodes on DVD a while ago, but they never pushed the second 10 episodes to DVD.
This is
on the streaming service.
This is a trend that's been happening more and more with streaming services, and that point exactly is what's kind of pissed off a lot of the creators. Is that this thing that they've put so much like time and energy and effort into is just gone forever, and they can't even pull it. Like, it's something they created, they don't own it though. It's, you know, it's owned by them, so it's just gone. It's thrown into the deep dark vaults of whatever network owns it.
Right, and when you first said like, oh, they canceled it, I had assumed like, oh, okay, they canceled season 2. Maybe it was just a casualty of the writer's strike because like that. I mean, we all were there in the early 2000s. That shit happened, but like to then also pull the old episodes is fucking bullshit.
Yep, it's just all about cost cutting and tax savings. Basically, it's, you know, with everybody now having their own streaming service and trying to produce their own original content, they've realized we can't afford this. Or let me rephrase that: we can't afford this and still make buttloads of money like we want to.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's not like Paramount's losing any fucking money.
Just not making enough for their tastes.
Fucking ridiculous. How much profit did gross profit for 2022 for Paramount was $10 billion.
Yeah, had to cut that for the cost savings, buddy. So that is the news that's going on right now. Any of you guys have anything to add?
I'm very upset that this wasn't more upbeat.
To be
Yeah,
fair,
man,
I picked this topic independent of you guys, so
this
Very true.
this whole episode of our podcast is just fucking it's just kicking us while we're down.
all right. Well, I think with that we will call it an episode. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm just sad now.
So sad, so sad. All right. Well, we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for jumping
Sorry.
in. It would feel weird if
almost
I
was
did
like,
it.
oh shit, do I have to do it? Oh, I've never done it before. I can't believe I pulled it off.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.